When you hear that iconic Pink Floyd guitar sound, you might think it came from nowhere. But the truth is, 5 legendary guitarists secretly shaped the sound that would define one of rock's greatest bands. First up, Hank Marvin of the Shadows. Long before the psychedelic wave of Pink Floyd or the emotional solos of David Gilmour, there was Hank Marvin, the bespectacled lead guitarist of the Shadows. With his bright red Fender Stratocaster and signature echo-drenched tone, Marvin didn't just play guitar, he made it sing. His instrumental hits like Apache, Wonderful Land, and FBI were wildly popular in the UK during the early 1960s, laying the foundation for British rock guitar as we know it. Marvin was the first guitarist in Britain to use a Fender Stratocaster, and the sound of that guitar, clean, twangy, and drenched in reverb, became instantly iconic. That tone didn't just inspire a generation, it defined it. Among those who took note was a young David Gilmour. In multiple interviews, Gilmour has cited Marvin as one of his earliest and most important influences. He described sitting in his bedroom as a teenager, playing along to Shadows records and trying to copy Marvin's phrasing. "Hank Marvin was the reason I wanted a Strat," Gilmour once said, "and why I wanted to make the guitar cry." It's no coincidence that Gilmour's soaring solos on tracks like Comfortably Numb and Shine on You Crazy Diamond carry that same melodic clarity and emotional weight Marvin pioneered. Even Gilmour's use of delay and echo effects traces back to Marvin's experiments with tape echo in the early 1960s. The connection between them isn't just technical, it's emotional. Both guitarists are known for making fewer notes, say more, favoring feeling over flash. Gilmour later referred to Marvin as the man who proved that the guitar could speak. Though their styles and eras differ, Marvin's DNA runs through the fretboard of every Gilmour solo. Without Hank Marvin, there may never have been the David Gilmour we know today, or the soundscape of Pink Floyd as we remember it. Next, Eric Clapton. Clapton once played with Pink Floyd, unofficially. In 1966, when Syd Barrett was still Floyd's frontman, Clapton jammed with them at UFO Club in London. While no recordings exist, witnesses describe the set as a chaotic blend of Clapton's blues and Floyd's spacey psych rock. Decades later, David Gilmour named Clapton as one of his key influences, praising his phrasing and emotional restraint. Clapton's story isn't just about skill, it's about survival, reinvention, and raw human emotion, traits that also define the music of Pink Floyd and David Gilmour. Different sounds, yes, but kindred spirits in the language of feeling. Here's where it gets interesting. Jimi Hendrix. In 1967, Hendrix actually toured with Pink Floyd and initially dismissed them, saying they don't sound like nothing. But Hendrix's revolutionary approach to electric guitar, his use of feedback, distortion, and sonic experimentation, would profoundly influence Pink Floyd's evolution. The psychedelic textures and experimental sounds that became Pink Floyd's trademark owe a debt to Hendrix's fearless innovation. In 1967, Pink Floyd was just emerging from the London underground scene. They shared a bill with Hendrix during a UK tour that spring. David Gilmour, not yet in the band, was in the audience, spellbound. He later said seeing Hendrix play live was one of the most amazing moments of my life. Gilmour credits Hendrix as a key inspiration, especially his expressive use of the whammy bar and feedback, techniques Gilmour would later master in a more melodic, emotional style. Though their music styles were different, Hendrix was chaos and fire, Gilmour was space and soul. They both viewed the guitar as an emotional voice, not just an instrument. Gilmour once called Hendrix the best guitarist ever, adding that what Hendrix could do with 6 strings felt almost supernatural. Jimi Hendrix didn't just play the guitar, he possessed it, and for a few short years, it let him speak in colors no one had ever heard before. Now for the most obscure influence, Keith Rowe of the avant-garde group AMM. Rowe pioneered prepared guitar techniques, placing his guitar flat on a table and using unconventional objects to create otherworldly sounds. Syd Barrett, Pink Floyd's original creative force, was directly inspired by Rowe's experimental approach. Barrett's use of objects like Zippo lighters as bottlenecks and his abstract sonic textures in songs like Interstellar Overdrive came straight from Rowe's playbook. Rowe's ideas may have seemed radical, but they echoed through progressive and experimental music, influencing artists from Sonic Youth to Brian Eno. And yes, even Pink Floyd. In fact, early Pink Floyd, especially the Syd Barrett era, shared a direct line to the British avant-garde scene where Rowe operated. Both groups performed at London's UFO Club, and Rowe's boundary-pushing performances inspired underground musicians to think beyond the fretboard. David Gilmour, though known for his melodic phrasing, once praised sonic adventurers like Rowe for expanding the possibilities of guitar texture and space, something Gilmour would later explore through reverb, echo, and lap steel techniques. Finally, the Beatles' guitar work during their psychedelic era. While recording at Abbey Road, just studios away from where the Beatles created Sgt. Pepper, Pink Floyd absorbed their experimental studio techniques. Roger Waters admitted that Beatles songs like Lovely Rita directly influenced Pink Floyd tracks. The Beatles showed Pink Floyd that guitar music could be deeply personal and endlessly experimental, a lesson that shaped their entire approach. Harrison was the first major Western rock star to introduce Indian music and philosophy to a global audience. His use of the sitar in Norwegian wood sparked an East meets West movement that would inspire everyone from the Rolling Stones to the Byrds. And yes, even Pink Floyd. In 1966, Pink Floyd was still an underground London band exploring psychedelic textures. Harrison had just returned from India, where he had studied with Ravi Shankar. That influence rippled through the British music scene. Songs like Floyd's Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun carry unmistakable echoes of Harrison's modal, meditative, musical ideas. But perhaps the most surprising connection came years later through David Gilmour. The two guitarists shared a mutual respect, both known for their expressive, melodic playing. Gilmour once said, "George had taste. Every note mattered." In fact, Gilmour played on Harrison's 2002 posthumous album, Brainwashed, a final tribute to a lifelong admiration. He contributed a slide guitar solo on Marwa Blues, a beautiful, wordless piece that went on to win a Grammy. So there you have it, 5 guitarists who secretly shaped Pink Floyd's legendary sound. From Hank Marvin's melodic foundation to Keith Rowe's experimental chaos, these influences combined to create something entirely new. The next time you hear that unmistakable Pink Floyd guitar tone, you'll know the hidden history behind it.